Welcome into Courier Sports Beyond the Buzzer. I'm your host, Ethan Petrik. With me, Jim Nelson and Donald Promnitz. Gentlemen, I want to start us off this week talking about what we talked about last week for the entire show, which was the clash of the Titans in 2A up in Sumner. Real hotly contested volleyball triangular. Donald, you were there for every match. What stood out to you on Tuesday night last week, and what should listeners of this podcast go back to your story to learn about?
Well, I'll tell you that one big takeaway, the obvious, of course, is that the North Iowa Cedar League is just as good as ever. Dyke New Hartford has been playing in just dominant fashion, as always. Last I checked, or leading into it, things could have changed. I haven't had a chance to look at the stats yet, but they have not lost. They've only lost one set this entire season so far. Just tremendous work by them. But then also, Grundy Center is not a team to sleep on, even in this district. They did a fantastic job at putting away Sumner Fredericksburg, who were absolutely fantastic themselves.
Jim, what stood out to you taking pictures for those final two matches?
You know, just on Don's back here, it was high level of volleyball, real high level of volleyball. You know, it looked like Dyke just absolutely dominated. They dominated, but there were some long rallies that they just found ways to win that the other teams didn't in those matches. They are the dominant team in class, and they're the best team, regardless of class, in the state of Iowa this year. Again, you could probably argue that last year, although they ended up being a state runner-up in a big upset in the 2A state final game. But the same thing last year. They just handled all the 5A and 4A and 3A teams they've seen. And Don was right. I think they went 5-0 at their own tournament this weekend, and they didn't drop a set again. So, they're rolling. That's a really good team. You know, the other two teams any other year would probably be the best team. You know, would be contending to be the best team in the NICL this year. You know, and it's just happened. They've run against we've talked about the senior class for the Dyke New Hartford. That's just incredible, and their level of success is unprecedented. So anyway, but that's it was just that was high level volleyball. That was there's some players that can play. I mean, really play.
Yeah, I joked with Coach Peterson at UNI's press conference today before she went up to the podium. I was like, I don't think there's ever been 6 future college volleyball players all in the same gym for a 2A triangular before. And she just kind of chuckled. She was, of course, in attendance to watch her 2 daughters and maybe some of her current commits that are going to be headed to Northern Iowa in the future. And I think it's special anytime that there's 2 radio stations, a TV station, and the paper, or 2 papers at a just any event. It's a big deal. But that was in the gym in Sumner. We had Woodley was there. Nick Thompson was there, and then there were 2 radio stations up in the Crow's Nest. So, you knew it was a big deal, and there were plenty of people there. Though I'm sure if it had been a little bit later in the evening, giving people a little bit more time to get to it, there could have been even more. So, a real fun time up in Sumner last Tuesday. You can go and check out Donald's stories on that. I also have a column coming out about how fun it was and how awesome it was, and Jim kind of stole one of my points from that story. With talking about how there was incredibly long rallies, and I think that was the most impressive thing. Is you have these 3 front row players for Dyke New Hartford that are all going Division I, and they're just hammering the ball at these teams, but they're answering, and they're finding a way to get a touch on it to keep the ball in play, and then you get it to an Isabel Elliott for Sumner Fredericksburg, and she's got a cannon herself. So it was a great match. Looks like you got a comment.
Well, yeah, you talk about that. They were hammering; those guys were hammering away. But I can't recall the young lady's name, but I think it was a freshman for Summer Fredericksburg, maybe a sophomore. She had a solo block on Peyton Peterson, perhaps the front runner for the Gatorade Player of the Year in the state of Iowa. I mean, that's a highlight. That girl's gonna be talking about. I blocked her. I blocked her. But they just keep on coming at you, and they have great defense too, and that's what. Everybody wants to look at that front row and how dominant it is with the Petersons and Mar and Bixby, but they can play, they pass the ball well, they defend well, and if the ball gets past that first line of block, it's going to come back. A lot of times there's going to be somebody there to dig it up. So anyway, it was fun. It was a fun night.
Yep, and then Grundy Center with Carly Willis and Ellery Luring as well. I learned that Luring doesn't. She only plays back row for club, and so her defensive game has gotten a lot better. And so Coach Lori Willis says that she's just as good on the first touch as she is on the second touch. So their setter in Grundy Center is an exceptional defensive talent as well, and that was something I was unaware of going in because I think when you look at volleyball statistics, it's impossible to tabulate solid defense. Most of the time, you can have that dig stat in there, but not everything that you're doing defensively is going to show up in the dig stat. So that was one thing that I took away, and I wasn't able to get into my story and something I wanted to get out there. And that was actually Carly, Lori's daughter, that told me about that stat. So I was able to ask Ellery, and she was able to share a little bit about that. But want to get to Friday night now. What I actually teased you guys and told you guys to prepare for, not throw a curveball at you to start the show.
Right.
And I want to just get some insight. I was up in Pocatello on Friday night, so I wasn't able to get out to a high school football game this weekend. You guys were at Cedar Falls, Iowa City Liberty for Donald, and West Davenport Central. Davenport North. Well, that shows you how well I was following your Twitter, retweeting everything from the Courier
There's a
Sports
chance
account.
I was tweeting about Davenport Central playing, but that's who they played last week.
You riding that Sun just got homecoming king high, I suppose.
Yeah, we were. Yep. What a night for my son. But that's not why we're here to talk. But it was a special night for the Nelson family.
All right, Donald. Looking at your game from the Unidome, what stood out to you? What were people talking about?
This was a case of it was really a tale of two halves. They had such a difficult time, Cedar Falls did, of getting anything going on offense that first half. It was 7-0, but absolutely clutch work on the part of the defense there. And then, what really got them in was the 55-yard kickoff return, and that set them up in good field position. They were able to get their running game down really exceptionally well. Colin Coonrat also kind of just saved the day for them. Once they tied it up at 7, he was able to receive an onside kick for them, and that got them into excellent scoring position again. So that just was a tremendous part on his play. Then they got the lead on that drive, and they kept it. And just for added measure, Coonrat got the dagger there with an interception that kept it out of
reach.
Out of reach, yeah.
I believe it was the first game back for when you speak of the run game. I think Drake Gelheis played for the first time this year. Yeah, so that was a big boost for them, and a kid that rushed for a lot of yards last year, and a pretty good running back.
They got their first touchdown too, I believe so.
So to have him back probably was a big giant boost for Cedar Falls.
Want to hear more about that game? Again, go to our website, check out Don's story from Friday night. Jim, talk a little bit about what you saw from West in their win. It seemed like for a little while it was in question, and then they just kind of pulled away in the second half. What can you share from Memorial Stadium?
I think Coach Moore would say it was probably not their best game, but they found a way to win. They got a pick six from Jacob Mueller right off in the first minute of the game. A great read on him. He read the quarterback's eyes, saw the running back slipping out in the flat, and he just stepped in front of that pass untouched, touchdown. But it was about, I think I texted about 27 yards. That was estimating because I had a bunch of players between me, but it was between the 25 and the 30. It was just a great play to get the Warhawks on the board 7-0, and then really for the rest of the first half, it was Davenport North that was moving the ball up and down the field, and West defense find way twice inside their first and goal for the Wildcats. Let me see, I got to get the right team. Yeah, it's the Wildcats because Davenport Central's the Blue Devils, I believe. So getting our teams mixed up here, but anyway, twice Davenport North had a first and goal inside the 10, and neither time West held twice, including one of those first and goals was like first and goal from the 2. So it was like 4 goal line stops, and then they recovered a fumble on the fourth down. But that was the tail. And then in the second half, they got some offense going. They had a nice drive late in the third, and then scored in the first play, I think, of the fourth quarter on a Brady Dean run. And then they had a big long Ben Frazier touchdown run that put the game away, 19-3. I think they feel fortunate. There was a lot of penalties in this game. I bet there was more than 30 flags thrown in this, and penalties accepted. There was a lot of rhythm to the game, but West found a way to win it, A big thing. The big loss here is that Brady Dean got in an altercation right at the end of the game. It was a scrum. I didn't see it. It was a failed 2-point conversion, and he got sacked behind the line of scrimmage, and he got ejected from the game, which means he will. We believe by rule he will miss this Friday's game on the road at Waukee Northwest.
But as we know, that quarterback battle between Dean and remind me who's
Wesley Bates, I believe is right.
I'll look at my preview, but that was a QB battle that went right up to their scrimmage against Waverly Shell Rock. So if you were to put on your Coach Moore hat for a moment, and if you were sitting in his spot, would you feel fairly comfortable given that a month ago you weren't sure which one of these two guys you were going to be starting? Would that that's got to be a comforting thought.
I think so. I think West will probably adjust how their offense operates. They do run a little bit of a spread, but they showed a Wildcat package, so I think they could go to the Wildcat package, and they could use multiple guys there. And then they did. I think it's Wesley Bates was a backup. I could be wrong with his last name. I know it's Wesley, is his first name, but they could go that way. They could bring up a kid.
Wesley
Evans. Darn it, Bates. Evans. Not even close. That's not even good.
You were correct on the first name. I knew you were correct on the first name, but you got a 5-letter name that ends in S. So I mean, you were fairly close. Wesley Evans was the quarterback that was battling with Brady Dean for that quarterback spot. So continue.
But anyway, so they could do a lot of different things on how they do it, and they're going to have to rely on that defense. It's a senior laden defense, guys. Multiple guys that have played 2 and 3 years, several 3-year starters on that defense. So. They're gonna really rely on that, and hopefully against a Waukee Northwest team that's coming off a loss to West Des Moines Dowling, and everybody knows how good Dowling is. It was a 2-touchdown game they lost by, but they're 2-2, I believe, and it'll be a tough road test, especially without your quarterback.
Brady Dean's been a prep to watch. Andrew Klein has been a prep to watch for those Hawks. Was there anyone that really stood out to you, really flashed? I feel like Ben Frazier had a good game. Maybe that's not the person you're thinking of, but who stood out to you?
Frazier had he flashed multiple times on offense. It wasn't probably his best running game. He was cramping up quite a bit. So it wasn't one of those things where he had to be helped off, but you could see and then you have to walk it off. He'd be out of play and he'd come back in. He had a good game. Jacob Mueller had a big game, and he delivered several big hits on defense too. So that pick six really helped West out early. And then the defense as a whole, really took over that game. I think that really what won it. It was they struggled offensively for most of the game, and then finally got some things going late in the third and early in the fourth to get a couple scores. And it was I believe a defensive play that set up the last touchdown too. So, but it's just you find ways to win, and the West is now 3-1, and they're right in the thick of the playoff race, midway point of the season.
East lost to Fort Dodge, and Columbus beat Hudson, gave Hudson their first loss of the season after Columbus took their first loss to West Branch the week prior. That's how our Metro teams fared. Waterloo Christian, I did not see an update on Waterloo Christian.
They lost to Green Mountain Garwin on Saturday night, 72-34. 72-34, I think was the final.
And still no stats.
Yeah, so that 8-man player, the 8-player game, high scoring, a lot of fun.
Yep, and we're excited to get out to a Waterloo Christian game here. Tentatively circling that Don Bosco matchup because that could be a fun matchup between two area teams. Give a chance to catch up with the regions after one full year on the gridiron. But we'll go ahead and
we do have one of their games on the schedule, though. I will be taking care of their game with Riceville on October the 6th.
Well, there you go. There's the
got to give them some love.
Yeah, circle the date, October 6th. Donald Promnitz going to be at the game. We'll go ahead and shift gears though to what I really wanted to get to tonight. Maybe not so much looking forward, but maybe just so looking back, but more shining a light on some standout area athletes. And that is Cedar Falls cross country. The boys cross country team is ranked number 1, and I got to see quite the performance on Thursday night. Luke Hartman gets injured or sick. I didn't get the full story there. Midway through the race, does not finish, and then Ahmed, their new runner, he stops midway to help Luke Hartman. So they're down their number 2 and number 3 runner. at the Rich Angle Classic, and they still pull out the victory, winning by 5 total points. So a real standout performance. Obviously, the headliner there is Jaden Merrick, but great races as well from the rest of the Tigers to pull out the victory. I spoke with Merrick and John Ferguson. Ferguson was the third Tiger to finish that one. Kieran DeGroot got second for the Tigers. Braden Frey fourth on the Tigers. So, you know, we heard all season about how great their depth was and how great their senior leadership was in addition to Merrick. But we also heard about the depth, and I feel like we finally got to see that on Thursday. Jim, you've been kind of the one leading the way on our cross-country coverage all year. Are you surprised by what I was able to witness on Thursday?
No, talking to Coach Egan, before that meet, when I did a story on Jaden Merrick, they have 7 guys that can have eclipsed 16:30 this year, and that is incredible. 16:30 would be a fast time for just about the fastest time for just about any team in the state. And Cedar Falls has got 7 runners that have ran under 16:30 in the 5K. That's pretty impressive. That's a little more than about a 5-minute and 30-second mile. 3 miles. So that's pretty good. And then you got Jaden Merrick running down, and he could. They believe he could eclipse there again into the low 14 or the high 14s before the end of the season. So I mean, and that's running sub 5-minute miles, or 3 miles. So yeah, it makes me hurt just to think about running that fast for 3 miles. But those guys are special athletes, and they put in the work in the summer to get to that point, and that's what they talk about. This team has really, really put in the work this summer, put in the miles, and they're prepared to make a statement this year when they get to Fort Dodge. And I'm putting it on there. They're going to make it to Fort Dodge and state tournament, barring, they lose all 7 of their top runners. But then again, their JV is really good too. So who knows?
Well, I think you're underselling them a little bit because John Ferguson told me on Thursday that their goal is state championship. So I think that I don't think they're treating it as a foregone conclusion. They understand that the hard work still needs to be put in, and they still need to, go out and compete every meet. But they have their eyes set much higher than just Fort Dodge. They're planning on bringing back some hardware, and that's fair enough because they are the number 1 team. And when I asked Coach Egan how the team's handling that pressure, because summer workout talk can fall flat pretty quickly once you get to the season. Obviously, they're not letting it fall flat, but once you get that pressure of the number 1, because they didn't have that coming into the season, they gained that 2 weeks ago. They picked up that number 1 ranking 2 weeks ago. I asked him, how are you handling that pressure? How are the guys handling that pressure? And they don't really see it as pressure because they know the work that they put in during the summer. They know that the miles that they ran, couldn't give me a specific number on those miles. You just said a lot. So, your legs are probably hurting just thinking about how many miles these young men put in this summer. But yeah, they're dealing with that pressure. They're not really thinking too much about the ranking. They just got their eyes on the prize, and I think that's really what's driving them. Merrick on Thursday running a course record didn't break his own school record, but he did set the course record for the Rich Angle Classic out at Pheasant Ridge and Birdsall Park. You had the story on Merrick breaking the school record. Jim, what'd you learn working on that story?
We already knew Jaden was he's a runner that a lot of people have known about. He's come up to the youth ranks, winning races as a youth. And so last year as a freshman, he finished 18th in the state, was one of the top freshman runners in the state, and then he backed it up, and then he got better when the track season came around. He had a really strong track season, and Coach Egan talked about how that the start of the improvement of Jaden Merrick began in the track season because he ran really well.
Don't steal too much from what Don's about to tell us.
Uh-oh. What, Don? Look at that. He's frozen. He's frozen.
What the heck, dude?
Did you froze? Did you freeze?
What did I do to you?
Did you freeze?
All right. Focus here, gentlemen. Focus. Jim, tell us, finish what you thought, and we'll get more on track from Donald because he's got the scoop there.
But anyway, so Jaden, he ran 15:10 already as a sophomore. This guy, he's already the best runner by time in school history, and he's only going to get better in the next couple of years. And that's all I really got to say is the kid's really dedicated, and he wants to be the best, runner, and the best. He wants to be a state champion runner too, and he wants to lead his team to state championships. He talked a lot about team. So
yeah, big team guy. I asked him, hey, you broke the school record last week. What's driving you at this point? What are you chasing? He said, I'm not really chasing my personal results. I want to see the team be successful, and I want my times will drop I'll cut my time down a little bit if I'm worried about that. Basically, is the gist of what he told me. Donald, you had the story on him at state track. He cracked into the top 10 nationally for his class at the state track meet. Share a little bit about that story and maybe why people might want to revisit a story from May to learn a little bit more about the Cedar Falls track cross country team.
Not only that, he was a top 3 freshman in the country on that 1,600-meter run, and talking to him, placing 6th, this kid is all smiles. He was just ecstatic to be there to place as well as he did at his age against juniors and seniors. The way he put it to me is that he just loves to run, and he loves to run a long way. To him, it's simple, it's fun, but with that simplicity, there is a little bit of tactic with, and strategy with long distance running. You can't just completely blow out and completely dash at the beginning. You've got to have your pace where you're going fast to some places, slow down a little bit. He likes that spacing out. He loves to just be out there on the track, just running. It's it's a really good motivator for me to do some cardio, though. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah, he says he likes to run. He likes to run.
Ditto.
I don't know if it doesn't work.
Yeah, you definitely need to do some cardio.
It doesn't quite work that way for me, as you can see.
When you're a hockey player,
I'm getting my cardio on the pickleball court. Don't worry about it. All right. But you say he likes to run. He likes to run far. I call that mental illness, but he calls that fun. Apparently, the girls on the girls' side of things, the Cedar Falls Tigers took 3rd as a team. Maddie Gallagher and Anna Becker were pacing the field there. Gallagher running a 20:09.3. Becker with a 20:24.9. Josie Simonson, Zoe Zylstra, and Emily Meyer also finishing in the top 5 for the Tigers. Not top 5 overall, but top 5 for the Tigers. Zoe Zylstra, she's an athlete to watch because she also does track and she also plays for the soccer team in Cedar Falls. So she's a dual sport when it comes to the spring. So certainly an athlete that you just seem to see pop up all over the place. And she is a state qualifier in track as well. So an athlete that's doing a lot of different things for the Cedar Falls Tigers. And then getting away from Cedar Falls, moving a little bit to the east because we are the Waterloo-Cedar Falls Courier. You gotta show a little love to them as well. Nakia Olivier from Waterloo West, she transferred from AGWSR this summer. She took 2nd overall in the girls' field and ran a blazing fast time, 18:51.9. That was a new PR for her. We knew she was good because we covered her when she was with the Cougars. She was, let's see here. Did I not? Oh, wow, look at me. And terrible coverage from Ethan Petrik here. Oh, she took 10th at state cross country and 1A last year as a freshman running for Iowa Falls AGWSR, but she turned it in a blazing fast time at the Rich Angle Classic on Thursday. And what she told me is she's able to run that fast because she actually trains with the guys. So she's not running with the girls. She's training with Waterloo West's boys cross country team just so she can keep a faster pace. And she said that's helped her quite a lot, and she's cut almost 2 minutes off of her first time from this year. So her first time was in the 20s. She's already down under 19. So she's definitely looking to improve, and she's got her eyes set on low 18s, maybe even under 18 if she can get there. So really impressive showing from her as well, and that's something I just wanted to shine a little bit of light on as well. Jim, you came in and you shared a little bit about her before we started the show. What were you able to scoop?
Well, yeah, she was making a cross country post, but I noticed she is committed to play basketball at West Point already. So just as a sophomore, so she's an impressive basketball player too that will help out the Warhawk basketball program when it rolls around the winter. So but a great runner, and yeah, that's impressive. It's just the Waterloo West girls, to have a run up there of that caliber and. That's a fast time. I could do that maybe in a mile.
Mile maybe. I was standing
18 minutes and a half mile.
I was standing on the finish line, and I think it was like a Dubuque Hempstead girl came in, and she also set a new course record for the Rich Angle girls course all-time record for that competition. And then all of a sudden, this West girl just comes out of nowhere. Wasn't on my radar. Bad prep on my part, but just out of nowhere, and I was like, well. I was certainly not planning to do this story tonight, but I am absolutely going to be doing this story tonight. So, yeah, really impressive showing from Nakia Olivier out of West. And if you were wondering how they're going to replace Hallie Pook, Sahara Williams, well, we have one answer right there. Nakia Olivier committed to Army West Point to play basketball. Before we let them go, Jim, we forgot to recognize the Preps to Watch for the last 2 weeks. Tell us about the last couple high schoolers that we were able to honor with that column.
Oh, well, I'm gonna advertise the column. It's a great column for us. A lot of people are familiar with it. So we've really honored almost 10 athletes last week. So we like to honor 8 to 10 athletes. It's we reach out to coaches throughout Northeast Iowa for kids that are having successful fall seasons. In the winter, it's winter. You can reach me at jim.nelson@wcfcourier.com if you're a coach, and we can facilitate getting your athlete into the Preps to Watch column. We want to honor as many high school athletes from our coverage area as we can on a weekly basis and throughout the year, really. So reach out to me. Hit me up at my email one more time, jim.nelson@wcfcourier.com, and we'll get your athlete into the Preps to Watch column.
2 weeks ago, September 4th, it was Drew Gerdes from Cedar Falls, Jackson Willems from Sumner Fredericksburg, Lucy Varney, Parker Sheltson,
Addie Jocelyn,
thank you, Dane Appleby, and Denna Robb from Union of LaPorte. Last week, it was Micah Greer from Denver, Elena Hildebrandt from Denver, Kean Kreil, who I got to watch show out in a game against Jessup 2 weeks ago, from Hudson, Paige Pop, the outside hitter from Cedar Falls. I also got to watch her dominate 2 weeks ago. That was pretty incredible. Andrew Klein, as I mentioned, from West, and Aid Muhammad from East, as well as Avery Knoop from Union of LaPorte City, and Jackson Sanford from West Gulf. So those were the 17 athletes we've honored in the last 2 weeks. And again, we love to get those names in the paper, those faces in the paper, and share a little bit of light about the athletes that are doing great things at their schools. So be sure to reach out to Jim there. But we'll go ahead and cut the show there. Thank you for watching. Be sure to check out the audio option if you don't like YouTube ads, and that's on Spotify. And also follow us on social media, Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at WCF Courier Sports or Courier Sports. Thanks for watching.